All right, who's starting?
I did last week. Not
I think
it.
it's Pablo's turn.
Okay. Muy buenos días, amigos. Good morning, everybody. Let's talk about Christianity. Yes, we are here again. Hola, Kit. Hola, Zach.
Pablo, you did very well with the English words. It was the Spanish words that you were having problem getting at.
I thought you were fluent in your own language. Oh, goodness.
Some mornings are like that. That is for sure. But yeah, welcome.
I love it when you do the introduction. It gives us like a little pep to our step, a little inspiration, a little motivation. You know what I mean? I liked it when you did it like the soccer announcer. That was cool.
That was the best. Yeah,
that was the best.
Yeah.
I mean, that just started the program off of the
and
bang.
when he started describing the uniforms,
yes,
that was
even better.
The best. Yeah,
yes, that's what they do in soccer, no? We describe and also the environment too. And
You have to describe the uniforms and the environment because it's so boring. Because all you're all doing is just running back and forth.
Well, you have to.
Oh, look at the guy in the crowd over there.
You have to paint a picture though with your words.
Yeah.
Right, Pablo.
Right.
Or they're just bored out of their minds, and so they're just talking about things that aren't relevant.
Oh no! It's all relevant. You have to be able to picture. Hey, we've all listened to ball games on the radio before.
Okay.
And
I just want to mention this about soccer. This is the quote of a soccer player. Soccer is the most important thing of the less important things. No.
That's a good way of looking at it.
Yeah.
It's kind of hypocritical for me to talk about soccer in that way though, because I'm a baseball fan. Baseball is, it's a pastime sport, and it's not the most exciting from time to time. It has its moments. Soccer has its moments, but baseball for most of the time. Well, I don't know. The Astros situation may change that. Just wait and see.
Astros.
I don't know, but I think we're all excited that spring training has begun.
Baseball season is here, Keith.
Yep. Yep.
How's the Cardinals look? Have you watched them play?
No, I've not watched them any. John Farber did yesterday.
Yeah.
He
got to meet Dusty Baker.
Yeah.
That was pretty neat.
But he was down in was it Palm Beach? I think.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah,
somewhere in Florida.
Astros, he got to meet Dusty Baker. That's pretty neat. Great Reds manager.
Jack's an Astros fan, and so John and Jack went together.
He was a Cardinals fan.
John is a Cardinals fan.
I thought they were both Cardinals fans.
Jack is an Astros fan, so they went to watch the Cardinals-Astros game.
Maybe we need to bring Jack on the program and ask him what he thinks about the sign stealing scandal.
We could do that. And that actually would not be a bad idea to see if Jack would come on the program with us one of these days.
I don't think we get an unbiased opinion though.
Yeah, the problem with Jack is you just never know where he stands on things. Yeah.
Wow. Oh man. Let's record again, okay?
Yeah, there we go.
Good morning, everybody. Okay, guys.
Oh, it's good to be able to have laughs every once in a while.
Yeah, but
serotonin, right?
Getting on to more serious things, the more important things of the more important things. Can that be a quote?
I love how you reverse that quote. That's awesome.
Yeah, we are here, and this is, I don't know, I'm having to look up, see what episode it is, because I never think to look it up before
we'll go with episode
36.
There we go.
It's episode 36, so number 127 overall, and there have been just lots of things going on. We have had so much sickness here lately, and just
it feels like just the flu is just running it all throughout the country, because we've had sickness after sickness here as well. And then, we've had even more serious sicknesses going on with some of our elderly and shut-ins and stuff of that sort. So it's been a thing after another. That's for certain. And CYC this weekend, though, face.
Yes, and we're recording on Thursday because none of us were able to record yesterday. Right. So our group is leaving for CYC this afternoon sometime, and Zach, I think y'all are probably leaving tomorrow. You're a little closer.
Yeah, we'll leave at about 10. We'll get there probably about 1.
Yeah,
2 maybe.
Yeah, I don't think you'll be there by 1 if you leave at 10.
No, about 2. 2-ish.
Not even with you driving. Can't do that in 3 hours.
I don't know. I made it there the other day in 3 hours and 15 minutes. going down through Leslie County. I went Route 80. Went the other way. I didn't go down through Virginia and North Carolina. So it was. I made good timing. I made real good timing.
Yeah, that sounds a little too good. A little too good, because that's a 4-hour drive.
Well, according to maps, it's 3 hours and 35 minutes from my house to Sevierville. So.
Well, okay, Sevierville. Yeah, maybe where you get off the interstate there, but
made that 3:15. Anyway.
So yeah, there's lots of things. Oh, there's lots of things going on. I wish I'd taken a picture of our calendar for March. There's something going on every day in the month of March, it seems, and part of that is Jared's fault. He's throwing stuff on the calendar right and left.
Goodness.
And here
he goes. He thinks he's running the show.
Comes in with all this enthusiasm and everything, and we're all
those youth ministers. I'm telling you,
let him go.
Those youth ministers, you got to watch them. I'm telling you.
But yeah, we've actually got some really, really cool things that are coming up. And we've for example, in the month of March, we're starting a book club. Not sure how I feel about that yet. We're going to have to. They said there would be refreshments.
What kind of books you read?
I don't know yet.
You'll definitely show up.
But there's going to be refreshments, so I'll be there. We have a ladies' day coming up on the 21st with Tish Clark, and then BJ's going to be preaching for us on the 22nd, and those are probably the biggest events that we have going on next month. But the calendar's full.
Your buddy Jerry Barber's going to be at North Lexington this coming week. The Barefoot Runner.
Yep.
He's going to be in. He's going to be in North Lexington, holding a meeting about leadership. So I thought about going down there. Don Blackwell was in Cerrito this week too. I didn't get a chance to go down there and listen to him. I really wanted to, but I just didn't have the opportunity to do it. So.
Okay. Acts chapter 9. That's where I wanted to go today. And actually I started working on a sermon from this passage in Acts chapter 9 here a week or two ago, and it just never really fell into place the way that I wanted it to. And so I thought, well, maybe we can talk it out, here on,
or you just thought, let me bring it to the experts and maybe they'll give me a new perspective. That's what he thought. Let's bring it to the experts to see what they think about it.
And at the end of Acts chapter 9, of course, everybody, we think of Acts chapter 9, we think of Jesus appearing to Saul on the road to Damascus. But at the end of Acts chapter 9, we've really got a major, setup, a lead up. And the things there in that chapter, we might tend to we might tend to just go, well, okay, you know, Peter did this, and but you know, it's really all tied together with chapter 10, which we're not going to get to today.
No,
but
no way.
You know, when Peter comes to Lydda in Acts chapter 9 and verse 32, and he found the man Aeneas, who had been bedridden for 8 years, and he was paralyzed. And you know, right. the similarity between Jesus healing Aeneas and Jesus healing the man who was, you know, let down through the roof by his 4 friends.
Right, by his 4 friends.
You know, very, very similar. And you know, you wonder, where did Peter get that? But you know, he had seen Jesus do it, and so then he's staying there in the town of Lydda, and then we come to verse 36, and we find out what's going on in the city of Joppa. Now, here's what's cool about Joppa and the church that was in Joppa. We only know the names of 2 individuals in Joppa, Dorcas and Simon the tanner.
Yeah,
those are the only 2 names. And Dorcas, we know what she did, what happened to her.
Right.
Simon the tanner, we other than Peter stayed at his house, we don't know anything about him.
Right.
As a matter of fact, from reading the scriptures, we are, and it's a good assumption, but we are making the assumption that Simon was a Christian. But you know, Peter's in Lydda, Dorcas dies.
I've got a cool kind of contrast too that I've been studying a little bit lately. We've been doing the minor prophets. We're in Jonah now. Jonah's in Joppa when God commands him to go to the city of Nineveh, a city of Gentiles, an Assyrian city. Well, Peter in Acts chapter 10 is in Joppa when God commands him to go to whose house?
Cornelius.
Cornelius, a Gentile. And the contrast that I actually make in my lesson, on my outline at least, hopefully I'll get to actually get there in the lesson, but the contrast that I make is, you know, God told one person to go to Nineveh from Joppa, and he ran, and the other ran towards what God was telling him to do. And there's a lot of cool different incidences like that in the Bible, and I like the contrast that you drew between the guy who Jesus heals in the book of Mark. I can't remember what chapter it is, where his 4 friends lift him down through, and then this example here in Acts chapter 9. I really never thought about that. That's a really, really good contrast.
Well, let's continue to blow your mind then.
Okay, this will blow my mind.
As Peter goes to, you know, Dorcas dies, they send 2 men from Joppa to Lydda to get Peter. And so Peter comes, and what does he do? He puts everybody out of the room. He kneels down, he prays, and he says, Tabitha, arise. Now, you remember, of course, and his name just left me.
No.
The Jairus, the ruler of the synagogue, whose daughter had died. And he goes and he gets Jesus, and they get there, and they say, you know, why trouble the master? She is dead. And Jesus says, she's not dead, but she's sleeping. And then he puts them all out, and Jesus tells her to arise. So we've got that similarity there also in, you know, what is happening. Now, here is a little bit of trivia for you. You know, we're in Acts chapter 9. So Jesus ascended into heaven in Acts chapter 1. So, you know, we're probably looking at 8 to 10 years after the day of Pentecost.
Yeah.
Here in Acts chapter 9. Don't know exactly. No time stamp, unfortunately. But this is the first instance of someone being raised from the dead that we have recorded in the scriptures since Jesus rising from the dead.
Right.
Just a little trivia, and this account following the similarity of Jesus having raised Jairus's daughter, that same pattern being followed. And
Pablo's saying, "Get out of my room, leave. I don't want you here." Anyway,
who was that, Pablo?
My niece.
His niece.
Mirka's daughter?
Yes, yeah. Mirka's.
Yep.
Beauty girls. Okay, yeah. No,
Hola.
They flee.
Hola. Anyway.
Well, they're running from you because you're old and you're grouchy.
He is old and grouchy.
See, especially
one of
Okay.
our elders came in last night and he was talking about something and he said, "I'm just getting old and crotchety." And yep, Pablo's following that pattern. It's like, look, kid, get away from me.
Following that pattern. Right.
Anyway.
Okay, go ahead. Sorry.
So, we have those similarities, but I think we tend to look at these two events there in Lydda and here in Joppa as, just being random.
Right.
But I don't think they're random. I don't think Luke recorded them randomly because, the more I study this, the more I think this is the big lead up to Peter going to the household of Cornelius.
Yeah.
Because, as we flip the page and we come to Acts chapter 10, where is Peter when he has the vision? He's in the house of Simon the Tanner.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, I was going to say in Acts, starting in Acts 9 there, he's in the house of Simon the Tanner. I don't really think there's anything random at all. I think, in kind of going back to that point that I'd made earlier, I don't think it's random that God, maybe he's in Joppa as well. I don't think that may be random because we know what happened with Jonah. Jonah runs to Tarshish on the other side of the world, about 2,500 miles from Nineveh, and Peter's in the same city, and he's told to go to
that far.
Right, he didn't make it that far, but that's where he's going. And here you go, Peter. He's in Joppa, and he's told to go to Cornelius' house. It's kind of like, it's history's repeating itself, except Peter actually does what God tells him to do. I think I'm like you, Keith. I really don't think it's a random thing. I think it's really leading up to Acts chapter 10 and Cornelius' household. And I think that's a really great point. And this is a really good passage.
This wasn't one of the points that I was going to make in the lesson that I ended up basically throwing away. But, this is just a reminder that of the benefit of setting the context of what is going on and knowing what's going on leading up to an event and then, where that event goes to.
Well, you kind of always, when you study Acts 9 and Acts 10, you go from, Saul's conversion to Acts chapter 10. You kind of skip over Dorcas and you skip over Ananias being healed. And even, the fact here in 31, it says the church prospered throughout all of Judea, Galilee, and Samaria. And you kind of look over all of those passages and you just go straight to the big events. But these events, these smaller events, are just as important because they set the context and the timeline for what's occurring.
Well, so let's go back to Joppa. And let's stop and let's make sure that we're not missing a big event right here in Joppa.
Okay.
Because, we read over this and I think we get distracted by Dorcas being raised. But look at the church that is here in Joppa. Now, if I'm reading this correctly, in verse 37, it happened in those days that she became sick and died. When they had washed her, they laid her in an upper room. And, I'm not an expert, not by any means, on, their burial practices or things of that nature, but they did not wait long to bury people.
No,
They did not, and it still.
it was quick.
When we first moved over there to Eastern Kentucky, we learned of the old practice of having a body out
Yeah.
for 24 hours, and someone would sit up with that body, for 24 hours as a time of
Right.
visitation. And when I first heard that, I'm like, that's just weird. But then, I understood that with the mining community, the shift work, and the mines operating 24 hours a day, that it made sense. But that wasn't their practice, as I understand it. That when a body died, they prepared the body and they buried the body.
Right.
But they took her and laid her in an upper room. And this tells us that she wasn't in that upper room when she died. They took her there.
Yeah.
And put her in that upper room. And why? Why didn't they bury her like wow, names are not going to be my strong point today. Martha and Mary and Lazarus. They buried Lazarus.
Yeah.
Lazarus.
And Jesus came and called Lazarus out of the tomb. I don't think that, and when you look at what happened, they knew Peter was in Lydda. Lydda's not very far away. Let's not bury her yet. Let's call for Peter. Maybe Peter's going to come. Maybe Peter's going to do something. And when you look at the faith of the church that was there in Joppa, now, it makes you wonder also how many other saints had died over the last 8 to 10 years. I don't know how long the church had been there in Joppa. But was Dorcas the first to have died?
No.
Probably not. We don't know.
Yeah, probably not.
And also James and Esteban, no? They were killed before.
Well,
they
no,
were
I'm
very
saying
important people,
here in Joppa,
But
Joppa, yes,
okay.
you are correct. Stephen was martyred just in the previous chapters, two chapters before. So death was not unknown in the church, but they weren't ready to give up on Dorcas. And I marvel at the faith of the Christians in Joppa because of that. And they call for Peter, and Peter comes, and as you read this, all the widows stood by him weeping, showing the tunics and garments which Dorcas had made while she was with them. And everybody talks about the things that Dorcas had done, and because that's what's talked about there within this passage. But it tells you also that the value of Dorcas or Tabitha to the church there in Joppa was not just in her ability to make clothing.
Yeah.
They were, they had a deep love for this woman, and
I kind of find it another similarity too, Keith, that you could draw out of here is, okay, Ananias is healed there before this occurs. When Jesus heals that paralytic man who's lifted down through the rooftop by his 4 friends, one of the first things that he says is, "For I have seen your faith." And one of the great things that you're seeing here in verses 36 all the way down through 43 with Dorcas restored to life, one of the greatest things that you're seeing is like you said, Keith, their faith. You're seeing how much they believed in the fact that Peter was an apostle and that he could heal this person. And I think it's awesome too when you kind of make that, I guess, application to our lives today. And obviously nobody's being healed, nobody's being restored to life. Those things have ceased, they've gone away, they no longer exist, there's no need for them. We have the Word of God. But isn't it awesome to be able to see the faith of people in this life who know and trust and believe and find comfort in God? And, you know, one of the greatest times that you're going to see something like that is the death of a loved one. And lately we've been seeing that a lot with some passings that we've had at both congregations. One of the greatest things that you see in the death of a loved one is faith, trust, hope, and you find comfort in God. And when you see those things, you see other people's faith and just how much they believe in the life that they're living. And it's truly inspiring. And I think kind of what you're seeing here with Dorcas, they didn't bury her. They laid her up in an upper room and they say, hey, let's go get Peter, and Peter may do something. And I think that's pretty awesome point that you drew out of that.
Well, when you look at this church, and at this point, we're looking at the church. We're not looking at Dorcas, because
Right.
Dorcas is dead at this point in time. But we're looking at the church, and we're seeing the degree of faith that they have and the degree of, I don't even know the word, appreciation, reliance,
Yeah.
whatever upon Dorcas.
Mm-hmm.
They had that much appreciation for her. Here's what's, and I this is kind of cool, but it's also frustrating at the same time. We don't
Right.
know anything about Dorcas
No.
other than what she made.
Yeah.
We don't know if she was married. We don't know if she was widowed. We don't know how old she was. We don't know anything about her other than
or if she had prominence in the church too, right? Maybe she was just a member sitting down there, no?
Yes. And as far as that goes, we don't know if she was poor, whether she was wealthy, we don't know anything about her. And here's what is cool about that. The reason we don't know any of those details about her is because they don't matter.
Yeah.
Those are the things that we tend to look for. But in the big picture, those things don't matter.
Exactly right.
But the appreciation that the church had for her was so great that they called for Peter and made these preparations. But we're already starting to run out of time. Oh, we were way out of time. Who is a Dorcas among us? And I was going to throw out also that the name Dorcas, Tabitha, Greek and Aramaic names, both mean gazelle. And gazelle is a word depicting beauty. Was her beauty on the outside, or was her beauty on the inside? We don't know.
Keith's just on fire today. I mean, I'm
Wow.
marveling at it. I mean, he's. How could you not preach this sermon, Keith? Like, how could you not do it? I think you're going to be preaching it pretty soon.
Well, it got bumped off of the schedule because I was actually going to preach it this past Sunday morning, and then some things changed, and I didn't want to preach it, so it's not on the schedule right now, but we may have to come back to this one day.
I was going to say, I think it's going to make it back.
But who among us is a Dorcas? And if we are not a Dorcas, why are we not a Dorcas? Why are we not being helpful to those who are around us? Why are we not letting our beauty, our inward beauty, be seen, because nobody's looking at us for our outward beauty. Not us three anyway. Why are we not, and Dorcas was missed.
Yeah. That's,
but
we may overlook that point too. There's a lot of things that we, and I'll be honest with you, I've never really studied this specific set of scriptures here, 36 through 43, very extensively. And
me either. I just
really
pass it.
opens my eyes. And kind of like what you said, Keith, we tend to look at things that aren't as important as the things that we should be looking at. And I think that goes back to the point that we made about how we go from the conversion of Saul of Tarsus down to Acts chapter 10. And we just skip over those other sections there in the latter part of Acts chapter 9. And, there are a lot of lessons here that we can learn.
And
I may preach it too.
Maybe we can pick this discussion up here in a couple of weeks and and try to tie all three of these together. But let me say this: we have to record on Wednesday next week.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sounds good to me.
We have a special guest coming on. Dan Winkler is going to be with us next week, so we have that all set up to record next Wednesday morning, and looking forward to having Dan on the program with us. And then we've got some other things maybe in the works for some weeks following that. But so anyway, you don't want to miss next week's. Yeah, you don't want to miss next week's episode. Having said that, we gotta wrap this up. We're at 32 minutes here, so and we've all got places to be. So on behalf,
I gotta get my oil changed, my haircut.
Yeah, you gotta get your hair changed and your oil cut. On behalf of the Let's Talk About Christianity family, I'll call it family. Staff doesn't sound, because we never got titles. So, anyway.
I'm vice president, Keith's president, and Pablo is secretary. There's our.
You notice we don't have a treasurer.
Because we have no budget.
We have no budget. Oh, okay. So, we don't need a treasurer. But thank you so much for listening, and we will see you next week.
Sit.